Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge, 5:56 a.m. Central Daylight Time, October 19th, I think, October 18th. Let's see, 15, 16, 17, 18th. Yeah, the 18th, sorry. 2018. That's right, because this Saturday is the 20th, Tulane Southern Methodist University. We have from 1949, Barton Premium American Blended Whiskey from California and Kentucky. It's bottled in California and Kentucky. You say, but where is it distilled, blended, and aged? Or aged and blended? I don't really know. They don't say. It just says American. That means it's distilled somewhere in America. We may never find out. And hold on a second. We're going to go up against, from 2010, 8 long years ago, King Square Blended Whiskey, a crown. And if you look at that, you can't see it on this, video, but if you're in person, you can see there's like an old London street corner with carriages and trolleys. And what does this have to do with the royal country of England with the crown? I don't know. Tell me, because it's from Florida. It's bottled in Florida. And where is it distilled? We don't know. We know it's aged at least 4 years. We know both of these are 80 proof. There is a website listing for Barton. But all it shows is the different bottles and tells you if they're plastic or glass, and that's it. But at least Sazerac does that. Sazerac, who bought Barton 9 years ago, at least Sazerac will show you a color photo of each bottle design, which is nice. If you get on Heaven Hill, they just give you a list. And Caribbean Distillers makes King Square, but they don't talk about this whiskey. They talk about some other ones, which I'd like to find. Like there's a canned blended whiskey, no joke. And then there's a bunch of flavored ones, but canned. Like it comes in a big 750 milliliter can. Okay. Oh no. Well.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Terrio. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm not a spoiled child. I don't think I'm a little spoiled, but sometimes if I don't get my way, I'm impatient.
Well, my pet bat is very happy to be on your show also.
Well, I appreciate him joining.
There we go. Okay.
Krampus. All the way from Germany, folks. Krampus.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So,
go ahead.
I was just describing these two premium products. They call Barton premium, but as people may know by studying products, the word premium really means nothing. It's not a legal term. It just is a marketing term. So everything can be premium if they want it to be. And I don't think for $6.99 a bottle you're going to really get a true premium product. Oh, let me retract that. That Barton blended American whiskey did not cost me $6.99. It was $5.99, and after tax it was $6.35, and I bought it at a place called Smoker Friendly in Frankfort, Kentucky. The King Square I bought at Specs in east of Interstate 45 on the service road. A lot of people know what I'm talking about, right by the Woodlands, Texas. So that's the story there. That was, I believe, $6.99. It may have been $5.99. I didn't take great note of it. I just knew it was very cheap. So you joined us here for this taste challenge.
You have you mentioned Specks. In Germany, we have a cold cut called Kaiser Speck. It has a bits of fat in it. It's called Kaiser Speck. But anyway, I just had your American, your Dunkopf American Heaven Hill in the black label. Heaven Hill bourbon whiskey. That's all I could get my hands on right now. But
does it have an age statement on it?
Actually, no.
Okay. Because
the charcoal filtered, I guess.
Yeah, some of them are.
Yeah.
Charcoal.
No,
others are not.
No age statement.
If there's no age statement, then legally it must be aged at least 4 years. If it's under 4 years, they are required to give an age statement. Neither one of these exemplary products that I'm looking at this morning have an age statement. Now, I'm going to read the comments, but I have a very, very pale product in my left hand and a much darker product in my right hand. You can see amber as opposed to gold.
Yeah.
I think the explanation there is that this one probably has caramel color added and this one probably does not. So they would probably all look pale like this. Now, bourbon, if you have straight bourbon whiskey, no, it cannot have color added. So yours is going to be true to the color by virtue of the charred oak. Probably a heavy char. Let me see. Yeah.
That's if you can see. With my lighting, but I don't like the bright lights here in my cave. But yeah, it's I would say it is a light amber. It is a light, well, medium. Yeah, I would say almost a medium amber in color. But you know, like you said, you know the rules of bourbon. I know I've seen rum that is 2 years old. Aged is an oak barrel, but in your situation, you know, with bourbon, you have different rules, I guess, which is actually good. You know, but you can't go wrong with the value of a Heaven Hill bourbon.
Now, is that sort of like a tormenting spirit characteristic that they drink bourbon out of a straw, or is that because that's not typically what Americans do? But I'm not familiar with the drinking practices of Germanic.
Well, you know, put it this way, yeah, you know, I'm getting, yeah. Well, no, it's not customary of Germany, but I just like to do that so I don't accidentally dribble the bourbon all over my red chin. You know, makes it easy.
Okay, yes.
But it's what is the companies you're comparing now?
Okay, now you have Heaven Hill, which is owned by the Shapira family, and I posted an article in Alcohol Eggs about the history of Jewish involvement in bourbon production, and it's a very heavy involvement. The Shapira family started Heaven Hill in 1934. Anyway, it's family owned. I have, going along with that theme, actually, I don't know who owns Caribbean Distillers. I haven't researched that. That's a new company, hadn't been around very long. They're in Auburndale, Florida.
King Square. Okay.
Now,
excuse me.
Barton American whiskey, a blend. Barton Distilling, I don't know much about their history except they were around a long time, but they were bought out by the Sazerac Company, who is owned by William and Mr. and Mrs. William Goldring of New Orleans, and Goldring is another Jewish family, and they contribute heavily to Tulane University, established by Paul Tulane, a Jewish New Orleans citizen. So there's a whole theme going, and I got that article from an interesting, I don't know, like a magazine, an online magazine. I'm not subscribed to it, but it was interesting. And they were talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, well, there's good things about it, and then they were talking about some of the more questionable people in the industry that might have had ties to organized crime. And I guess in any business you get those kind of things. They were talking about the Bronfen family who took over Seagram's, but one of their descendants ran it into the ground 18 years ago and it was destroyed. But because you have that a lot of times with family-owned businesses, you get the younger generation taking it over and they blow it up. That happened to Howard Johnson's when he died in 1972. His son took over, and it about 10 years later it was bought out. You know, that's how he kept the thing going. He, you know, ruined it.
Well, I know of people like that too with mom and pop retail stores. The children don't, the younger generation, especially the millennials, they don't want to take over the family business. Yeah, it'll happen.
And I guess they get tormented by your type of people. Hey, talk about that theme, and then I'll start tasting. I was just reading an article yesterday. It was a very short article on Bloomberg News, I think, or one of those might have been Wall Street Journal 24/7. The CEO of Constellation Brands, the subsidiary of Constellation, I can't remember what it's called, who controls the Modelo beers coming into the United States.
Wow, really?
And Corona Extra. I'm trying to think. It's called something. I can't keep up with all these names. It's too convoluted. But whatever the case, his name is Sands. His last name is Sands. And he stepped down, they said, as CEO. I don't know what's going on with that. But that's another family-owned company, Constellation Brands, who owns, you know, the Taylor Wine Company. They bought them out. And their head honcho is a guy named Richard Sands, who's about 67 years old. Well, that's not too old these days. But
yeah, but he's almost ripe for the tormenting. Let's put it that way, almost.
Yeah, the father started the company. The father's name, he died a few years ago. He was very old when he passed away. The father's name was Marvin Sands.
Oh God.
And he founded the company in the 1950s, and it started off with a budget wine called Richard's Wild Irish Rose, which he named after his son Richard, who is the head of the company today. So that's sort of a interesting little bit of information that most people wouldn't happen to know.
It's like Wendy's fast food. Yeah, the daughter. Yeah,
named after the daughter, Wendy, and that wasn't even her real name.
Yeah, nepotism. But anyway, before you taste, I want to go on a little rant. I always go on these little rants, you know, about millennial bashing. Okay.
There's a comment from a guy named the Schizophrenic Jew.
Schizophrenic Jew. I want to torment him.
I cannot answer for what sort of YouTube accounts people come up with. I cannot answer for the names, although sometimes I could choose not to read the names. Do the Trailer Park Boys whiskey run? Well, that's assuming I would ever see it. And I might, but in Louisiana, that's sort of like an unknown quantity, Trailer Park Boys. But I guess up north and along the Canadian border and in Canada itself, it would be more of a thing. All right, so go on the rant and then we'll do the tasting.
Okay, you know how these, way back in the day, right? Way back in the day, we really did not have many crossing guards. These little spoiled, coddled bastard kids, okay, they don't know how to cross the street, so they need crossing guards at the school, right? But, you know, that's not my problem. The elderly and the young children is not my problem. Now the crossing guards at the school, they're crossing adult children, millennial generation children, and even older adults. These bastards don't know how to cross the street and look both ways. They need a crossing guard, and people I know have to stop their car in traffic and wait for adults, spoiled millennial bastards, as they're texting their smartphones in front of their face. They're hypnotized. Lisa Ling on the last week did a show about addiction to smartphones. The kids are depressed. They're lonely. They're committing suicide. But you know something? They don't need no crossing guard if they're adult young men and women. They need tormenting by Krampus. You stupid Dummkopf American millennials, look both ways, for God's sakes. You know, I noticed that's just one thing I have to bring up.
Okay. Well, I notice I see crossing guards when I go to like sporting events. They'll have a policeman or woman. That's for traffic control. I guess they figure people are drinking a bit too much at the game, perhaps. And then it'll really slow down the traffic if somebody gets hit by a car. So they say stop, go. But in a normal situation, no, I do not see adult crossing guards. All right, well, on with the tasting.
Well, adults being assisted by crossing guards.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying a crossing guard for adults.
Yeah.
I mean, an adult who's a crossing guard, which you would expect. I'm talking about crossing guards for adults. All right, now I had to be very careful not to look at the whiskeys because of the color difference. If I did even glance, it would be apparent which was Barton and which was King Square. I'm not expecting a lot. These are cheap products. The Heaven Hill would be a lot better because it's straight bourbon. These are blended with unaged, or as one company called it, fresh whiskey. Yeah, that's why it's clear, because it's fresh. Or some people might use the term moonshine, which is what that is. It's whiskey that's, in the old days, distilled at nighttime to avoid federal tax collectors, revenue agents, and then they didn't have time to age it, so they would just not bottle it. What would they do with moonshine? Jar it, right? Put it in a mason jar and ship it off to whatever.
That's because the politicians were not collecting anything. That's why they bust the poor moonshiners. I'm a defender of the moonshiners.
And if people remember the old television show, The Waltons, there were two old ladies, the Baldwin sisters, who produced moonshine, and they didn't even realize it, or they acted like they didn't realize what it was. They called it the recipe, remember?
Yeah.
Their father was a judge, and he used to make the recipe, and after he passed away, they continued making it. And everybody in town would go to their house to pick up batches of the recipe. Okay, but it was clear, liquid. In other words, fresh, unaged corn liquor. Okay, now, but that's what these two items are. They're 80%. Oh no, let me retract that. The Barton is 80% unaged corn distillate. The King Square is only 72.5% corn or fresh whiskey. It's 27.5% straight bourbon. So we got a 27.5% straight bourbon versus only 20% straight bourbon. You would assume that the higher percentage of bourbon whiskey would win, but I am careful not to make those presumptions too strongly. And you're drinking something that's 100% straight bourbon whiskey, which is mostly corn, right? Distilled and then aged, cut with water and aged in never before used charred oak barrels. Okay.
Now, let me ask you a question about distillation multiple times, like triple distillation. You know, like the Jameson's Irish whiskey, a promo. Now they just simply take the whiskey and distill it, go through the process again
3 times. Well, that's what they claim. Now, you know, a lot of vodka is distilled. Like, what's the one? There's one that's, they say, oh, it's so special because it's distilled 7 times or something. So,
wow, that's lucky number.
And then they filtered it through charcoal and get the impurities out. The vodka, I think the filtering is the thing that makes it better. If they're sometimes you get vodka, you can see little chunks floating in it. I think that must be little flecks of charcoal.
You think it's a Swedish vodka, Absolute, or from or Smirnoff or Stolichnaya, or what do you think it's a? Which company? Grey Goose?
No, I'd have to go look it up. I'm not too well versed in vodka, but I know that I have seen some of them, and you can see little black flecks floating around. And I'm thinking that must be charcoal that broke off. But
well, I know that that pig's knuckle, the knucklehead James, he goes shopping at this what the frick is this place? Home Liquors, and they got tons of Polish vodka. There's so many vodka companies, but
yeah, you're right. And James is one of those kind of people that's going to make a video about everything. You know what I mean? Like most people just go to the store and shop, but he's going to make a video production about it or something. You know what I mean? You know those type of people?
You know what it is? He's so impressed with the store and the variety. He gets exuberant and enthusiastic, and he starts, videoing him walking around. I know what you mean, but I think he likes the variety of that particular gigantic liquor store.
Yeah, and I can't say too much because then I'll sit and watch the video. So the consumer of the product can't criticize the product too much if they're consuming the product, right? So
yeah, but they do. I think I've seen that the Knucklehead James's videos, and the store is has a huge variety compared to the average.
Yeah. You're making me tempted to go to International Market today, but I think I'll wait till Saturday. There's a store similar to that here, but it's not just a liquor store. It's a food store that carries a bunch of liquor, and it's called International Market. And it's the size of a regular grocery store, but it's full of imported products from all around the world. Indian, Thai,
oh wow,
Indonesian, British food. It's frozen, fresh. There's produce, meat. It's all over the world.
Oh yeah, it's like the knuckleheaded James. He goes to the National Wholesale Liquidators International Food Market, and he described it exactly the way you just described it.
Yeah, and I think if that fellow you're talking about ever came to Louisiana, he would be impressed with Hong Kong Market, which is west of the Mississippi River, with all of its peculiar and strange aromas. I would call them odors. And International Market, it's you got to take a bunch of breaths when you come out of there. You say, oh, it's so, let's call it gamey.
How was the well, by the way, did those Los Angeles Trolley Dodgers win their series?
They did not win it yet, but they're winning it.
Winning it. Okay.
Winning it. Okay. Now, aroma. I have to be very careful here because I have to think back. I believe the King Square had a peculiar and strange candy-like aroma, almost like you would encounter with candy corn, which they give out at Halloween, and that's made with probably that Cairo type corn syrup. And so I got to remember these whiskeys are made with predominantly corn, so you would expect that. So yeah, there's sort of a candy corn thing here, and over here it's that. But let me tell you the difference. Here I'm picking up a sourdough bagel, and I do believe that many of the Sazerac or Barton whiskeys are based on sour mash bourbon. And the sour mash bourbon does, in my opinion, other people would say I was crazy, but in my opinion, does impart something like it's not really that, but I don't know how else to describe it, like a sourdough bagel. So that's just the way that's like a little cheat sheet I use, to tell them apart.
Yeah, and I know how to make homemade sourdough starter. I have the recipe right in my mind, right in my infernal mind here.
Right, you never know what a spirit could. All right, I'm going to go with the taste now. I'm ready. But initially, I think this is the Barton, and I think that is the King Square. The people watching can tell because they can see the light versus dark, but I can't. That's why I have to do it blind. Let's see, taste. Well, it's straight up corn whiskey now. I mean, it's strong, 80 proof, which is the standard alcohol proof these days, but it's 40% alcohol. So you can pick up that ethyl alcohol. You can pick up the charred barrel and the candy corn. This tastes like a card game at a dive bar and maybe somebody about to pull a shank. Okay, but let's go over here.
Shank. That was one of the Three Stooges. No, I'm sorry. That was Shemp. I'm sorry.
Shemp. His real name was Solomon, but the mother, who was a Russian immigrant, couldn't say English very well. So the English word was Solomon, and she say, "Oh, Shemp." They say it's not.
They were Lithuanian Jews from Brooklyn. Curly was Jerome Horovitz.
Right.
Jerome Horovitz was Curly.
That's right.
Mo was, I don't know.
Moses
Horovitz, right. You know the other two Curlys when Jerome passed away, Curly Joe Besser and Joe Dorita. I think they refused to be smacked around by Mo, which I got very upset. Mo should have smacked them harder. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah, Joe Besser and Curly Joe Dorita.
Those two wimps.
Okay, I think this is the King Square because it doesn't have as strong of a rye note, and I know the Sazerac whiskeys tend to be a little higher rye content, and this one is a little more. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the best whiskeys come out of Florida, but although I did think that the one that was all whiskey, no corn distillate, the one called not tail feather, speckled tail. I thought speckled tail was pretty good. It tasted like early times. So, but this one is a little funny monkey, you know, a little bit funny bunny, kind of, yeah, like kind of something like not quite up to snuff. But I'm gonna give it one more taste and I'll reveal it, and then I'll let you talk about your Heaven Hill for a moment before we close this out. I have to do a follow-up drinking session later today, not for personal problems, but because of scheduling and oversight on my part. Thank you very much. All right.
People, I don't want you accusing Kirill of alcoholism, you sarcastic bastards. I saw the last show. You know, somebody mentioned something about alcoholism. This man is a connoisseur and an educator. Remember that, an educator first.
Right.
And an enthusiast and connoisseur, bon vivant, whatever the frick French word you want to use. Yes, and yes, he is.
Right. All right. So, well, this one is not nearly as good as the one on my left hand. So the one in my left hand wins very easily. This one has a much harsher, unpleasant taste. I'm not going to sit here and say either one is exactly something you'd want to run out and buy, but you might have $7 to $8 to throw away. So that's the way we regard these products, honestly. But I'm going to say this is Barton, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll just have to live with it. But here we go, Barton. Oh my goodness! I don't even have to look at the tag. I can see it's light. It's King Square. Well, so I'm sitting here talking about something that has a funny flavor and it doesn't taste right, and it's the Barton. Just goes to show you. You got to do it blind because your preconceived notions can really cloud your judgment. So, okay, so basically all the things I was saying was reversed. So maybe good things do come out of Florida.
Not the election process, though.
I'm going to blame my defeat on hanging chads. All right, go and give us your assessment. and then I'll read some comments if there are any. In fact,
You can't go wrong with the value of Heaven Hill whiskey. I mean, it's very smooth. It really is. I mean, you could taste like you said, the charred barrel flavor. You definitely get that, and it is a very pleasant tasting bourbon whiskey for the price. I mean, you cannot go wrong for the price. And even the owner of this liquor store, the Indian man, said it is the best value that he has seen, matching quality. Excuse me.
show the label again for the audience.
Matching quality with low price. Heaven Hill is the black label, not the green and cream colored label, but the black one is a tad bit better than the one in the green with the green letters.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's a really the best bang for the buck. So far, quality versus cost is the Heaven Hill. If you're on a budget and you don't want to spend the money on Knob Creek and Jim Beam and with that that woman I want to drag into my torture chamber, the one that does the commercials. She looks very slutty. I would like to torment her. But anyway, I digress again. But so now, compared to all the expensive bourbons, he's a good value. That's all I can say, really. I mean, I've been actually.
I let the audience know that I do not share those sentiments.
Oh, about the girl in the commercial?
Regarding Mila Kunis. All right. Now, we do get a Heaven Hill brand here, but only their blended whiskey, which isn't too remarkable. I wish we could get the Heaven Hill straight bourbons in Louisiana, but to my knowledge, we do not. We get the Heaven Hill Kentucky whiskey, a blend. It's okay. It's only $6.19 a bottle, so I can't say too much about it. There's a lot of people that buy it around here. You see it everywhere. But for whatever reason, they don't sell that. Now, we get some other blended whiskeys from Heaven Hill, like, for instance, what's the name of that thing? Kentucky Gold, and which is even duller, and T.W. Samuels, which is actually better. T.W. Samuels is a little bit better than normal for a blended whiskey, and he was one of the pioneers of the whiskey world, by the way, and it's one of the oldest brands on the market. Of course, Heaven Hill makes some premier whiskeys too, not just they make Elijah Craig. They also make Evan Williams and so on and so on. But I don't need to tell people all that. They could easily look it up. There's that.
What is the difference between all of these damn whiskeys by Heaven Hill, by those, you said the Jewish family making all these different varieties? What is the difference?
Well, I guess the difference is that they have different mash bills. They use different recipes. A lot of these are companies that they acquired over the years. You know how that works. They gobble this up. They gobble that up. Same thing Sazerac did. Now, Sazerac, it ought to be called Gold Ring Distilling, but they named the company after the mixed drink, the highball, a Sazerac, which was developed in New Orleans by a man named Peychaud in the early 1800s. They made, and they still sell this product you can get at the store called Peychaud's Bitters. And but that's the whole thing. You read their website, how they invented the Sazerac. They also sell a product I would never dream of trying. It's called absinthe. I'm not drinking that green absinthe.
Absinthe sounds like abscess in your the dental that the dentist tells you. You have an abscess.
I used to talk to somebody on these hangouts that would tell me, I'm drinking absinthe. I'm drinking absinthe. He started acting crazy, and I thought, yeah, well, everybody says it makes people crazy, and then you're drinking it and you're acting crazy, So but he doesn't do the Hangouts anymore. It's too bad. He used to make some good comments, but I think he was pretty dedicated to high volume drinking, let's say. All right.
High volume means you don't appreciate the quality and the flavor of the liquor. You just drink for the buzz, for the effect. That's it.
Well, all right, let's read some comments. But it is an offensive, Ron. I am a schizo in real life. No offense to anyone. Okay, schizophrenic. Well, I used to teach psychology for 14 years, so I'm pretty familiar with schizophrenia. Gregory says I should make some videos. Hi, Ronald. Laugh out loud. What is this mask? A mask?
It's not a mask. It's my face. I'm Krampus. It's everybody busts my collunes, my balls about my mask. I mean, my face. It's my skin. I'm a demon. Get it through your head, you doomcuffs in America. Anyway.
Of course, the person could start to suspect that it is a mask, but don't come torment me. I'm just making a comment.
Yeah, don't give Jay a hard time about that. Give me a hard time.
Gregory says, I love Hong Kong. I try to make it once a year. Oh, you talking about Hong Kong market? The schizophrenic Jew said, Ron must be offended by the word Jew, it seems. No, I'm not offended at all. In fact, I'm not offended by a whole lot of things. The Three Stooges were the best ever. Bon vivant, laugh out loud, nice. Yes, Ronald's definitely a bon vivant.
Bon vivant. That was just a funny bird I came up with.
Yeah. Dill Bing says, good morning, Mr. Terrio. About to pour myself a glass of McCormick vodka. Salute. Oh, McCormick. They do sell that down here, McCormick. I'm an absinthe connoisseur. Uh-oh, you must try it. I'm too afraid.
His name is Dill, like dill pickles? Or how is it spelled?
Yeah, Dill Bing.
Dill Bing? I love dill pickles. I'm very happy you came out with that recipe, Mr. Dill. I love pickles. Anyway, I digress again. I digress.
Then the schizophrenic says, haha, he was about to say Jew. I seen it. Okay. Somebody's obsessed with
I'm an equal opportunity torturer. If you want me to smack around the Jew, I can smack them around too.
Right. We're not hung up on those ethnic considerations, really. Tell you the truth, your buddy, I would love to see a review on McCormick. Well, I did McCormick blended whiskey. And McCormick blended whiskey is probably a little better than average, but that's not saying much because the average blended whiskey ain't that good, in my opinion. It's tolerable. I'm doing a taste challenge, am I not? I got it wrong. That's the thing about these blended whiskeys. I tend to get them wrong a lot. Why? Because I'm bad at tasting? I don't think it's that. It's that they're so similar to each other that you get them easily mixed up. Well, that tells us one thing right there. If you insist on buying American blended whiskey, and why you would insist on that, I don't know. But let's just say you do. I would say shop price, and the price should be your only consideration. I've not seen anything so far that would indicate otherwise, except go for price, unless you're going to get Seagram 7 Crown. Now, Seagram 7 is better than normal. I have to admit that. But you're going to pay about $12 a bottle as opposed to $6 or $7. So if you want to lay down an extra $5 or $6 a bottle, go for it. But be prepared to pay. But then, like they say, if you want to play, you have to pay. You're not going to buy a Cadillac with a Chevrolet spinning, a Chevrolet layout. Although you might be happier with the Chevrolet once the Cadillac, all the equipment starts to break. Okay, but I shouldn't say too much. All right. I don't think I've seen vodka. I haven't done vodka reviews, Bill Dilbing. I did personal reviews off air. I did a review of Taka Vodka, which I'm not going to say was good. It was tolerable. And I did Crown Rust Vodka. I don't know what to say about Crown Rust Vodka. I will say that a lot of bars have it as their well drink. So somebody's drinking it in a mixed drink and not realizing it. I
have not seen much difference at all in vodkas. There's something about vodka. They're all basically the same. But Mr. J. Tirio,
yeah,
what is this? Tito's handmade or
yeah. That's the number one thing. One of the number one things right now. It's from Texas. Somebody made a lawsuit against them claiming that it was not handmade, that they did it on an assembly line.
You have to.
And the company, their defense was that handmade was not a legal term, and the judge threw the case out of court because handmade is not a legal term, so it's meaningless. Handmade could mean you press a button on a machine.
Oh my God, how about that? These lawyers need torturing. Yeah, because I see. I mean, not me. The pig's knucklehead Dunkov James sees Tito's handmade vodka in all the major bars. Like he goes to this Holiday Inn by Bananas Comedy Club in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. It says Tito's everywhere. Tito's handmade vodka.
It's very popular, and it is handmade in a factory.
Oh, okay. So if you press a button, according to the judge, it's considered handmade. Right. Oh, you Americans! Thank God I have many torture devices here in the Black Forest of Germany. Yeah, I learned something else from the Jay Terrio show. This man, I'm telling you, I didn't know he majored in psychology.
No, I did not major in psychology. I taught psychology for 14 years.
Well, Americans need somebody like you because they definitely are very dysfunctional, and they need people like you on the internet now, not in the profession in the classroom, but on the internet.
Yeah, right. He said, now we're going to close this out. He says, Tito's is very smooth in comparison to McCormick. A little more sting than something like Grey Goose, though. Yeah, I can understand that. We need more Mr. Dill Bing said we need more Mr. Terrio in the world. Well, okay. Well, daylight is arriving. It's a 65 degrees right now in South Louisiana, which is cold for us.
Wow.
So everybody will be out there wearing jackets and shivering because it's 65 degrees. But I do have to admit, we get so much humidity here that our 65 feels like your 45. I mean,
it is refreshing, very refreshing. Where I am, it is colder, of course, and the winds of November are coming early. But for people that endured a terrible summer with humidity, it's very, very welcoming to have this kind of weather. Don't complain about it.
Well, I'm just saying we don't really get too much crisp days here.
Yeah,
crisp days are we have more of an English style winter where it's damp, rainy, chilly, and uncomfortable. So dry, crisp weather is an anomaly, and it will maybe be 30 days a year, but the rest is humid. And
you know why? The Gulf Stream hits England. North, hits Iceland, and then hits the British Isles or the United Kingdom. That's why Ireland and that's why they have that kind of weather.
Right.
The Gulf Stream. But
that's right.
Because they are so far north, if something happened with the planet Earth and the Gulf Stream should stop flowing, they would get like sort of a sub-Arctic climate.
That's right.
It would be in deep shit, man. They would be really.
They would be like Newfoundland and Labrador at that point. Very cold, very cold, very cold.
Yes, Greenland. Yes.
Yeah. So, folks, later today, it looks like we're going to do a Scotch taste challenge, and we've got JW Dance. You remember that huge bottle I bought for $8.99 a liter? JW Dance blended Scotch whiskey, which has performed much better than expected, And we're going to go up against Scoresby blended Scotch whiskey, which is not bad, not popular, but interesting. Scoresby, it's one of those outlier products. You'll never see a commercial on TV with Mila Kunis or anyone else with Scoresby.
Kunis? Is that a dirty word? Oh, that's her last name. I'm sorry.
Yeah, cool.
Kunis. Okay.
All right. Thanks, folks, for watching this video production, and get ready because later today, got more coming. So that's the end of that. And I just posted a video this morning about Stedman's straight bourbon whiskey, which I bought a huge glass bottle for $19.99. Incredible.